Lisa, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Sorry. We are having a moment. Not this. Sorry. Where did we go? I don't know what. There we are. We are just going to. Okay. We should be ready now. All right. Can we, should we, are we recording? We're good to go? All right. Okay, I am going to call the regular Moab City Council meeting to order on April 23rd, 2024 at 6:04 p.m. And Jeremy, would you lead us in the pledge this evening? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, next up, we have our public comment section of our agenda tonight, and I believe, David, could you hand me if you are interested in speaking, I'd like for you to fill out one of these forms. As you all know, your time limit is 3 minutes and council will not respond to your comments. And so I'm going to start with Richard. Yeah.
Yeah, Richard.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Richard Laurie. I am a resident of Moab, and I just wanted to give my two relatively uninformed cents on a decision y'all made last week on the city council COLA. You guys decided to not give yourselves COLA, and I support the decision. I understand the decision, and it's a tough topic, and I appreciate the discussion that was had. And I think it could also warrant more discussion. I think this topic of elected officials, the legislature getting good pay is certainly a debated topic, lots of pros and cons. And I feel that it's a worthwhile discussion to have in front of the public more often. I had a lot of things to say. I would appreciate if over the next year, this intervening year before the next budget cycle, that if you guys could just look into elected official pay more and maybe discuss in front of the public more, I would appreciate that. I think there's a lot of nuances to it, and these decisions of legislative pay are relevant to not only our community, but to the state government, to the federal government. I think it's just a topic that the public could find useful, and I would just appreciate more discussion, and it's an interesting rabbit hole to go down. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Richard. All right. Next up, we have Charmates.
Thank you for giving us this time to speak with the council all in one place, and the mayor and city manager. And the thing that I just wanted to bring to your attention, which I know you already know, is the flood zone. I live in a place that is not quite paid for, and I went to refi my home and they won't refinance it with a fixed rate mortgage due to we live in a flood zone. I live in the Mill Creek Pueblo, and we had the 100-year flood and we did not get flooded. I'm not the only homeowner that feels that way. So just put it in the mix, and the next time it comes up, it would be awesome to see if there's anything that can be done to take it out of the flood zone so the people that are coming to buy homes could and apply for mortgages could get a fixed rate. Mine went from 4% a year and a half ago to, I just checked a couple of days ago, and it's up to 9% interest rate. So that's significant. Thank heavens I don't know that much and I probably, well, who knows how long you have to live, but that's the way it goes. And one other topic that isn't on the sheet, just an FYI, I just came from the varsity soccer game from Brand County High School and they just took region. Woohoo! They're head of the state.
Thanks, Shar. Appreciate that. Kaya.
The middle, I guess. Hi, everyone. I'm Kaya Marienfeld. I'm here speaking just as a citizen tonight. On a topic that I know that is on everybody's mind on the dais and then in the community as well, with what's going on with Walnut Lane right now. I wanted to come and be here as somebody who wholeheartedly believes in the intent of every single person up on this dais to do right by the people that live in that neighborhood, for the community. I am a firm believer that the city purchasing that property back in 2018 was the right thing to do. It has successfully kept people in their homes for 6 years, which I think is something that is admirable and worthwhile, and that I'm just here as a member of the community, hopefully representing a lot of people that aren't able to be here, a lot of people that really care deeply about people that maybe they don't know, that they've never met, just by virtue of the fact of what's happening to them right now, with being displaced suddenly from the neighborhood. And as someone who is not here to overtly criticize, but also to let you all know that the community is watching and that we really do care what happens to the people that live there, and to encourage you to do absolutely everything in your power to both keep them there longer if you possibly can, if there are avenues that haven't been researched yet, if there are things that potentially are on the table, if there are members of the community that you can reach out to who might be able to provide temporary insurance or housing or transitional support that hasn't been explored yet, to take every opportunity you possibly can. I think this is a community where people come together for others, and also where there's potentially creative solutions that happen organically here at home, not just necessarily upstate, whether it's from the current insurer or anything like that. We started a GoFundMe last week to try to help provide direct assistance to residents in the transition. It's been under a week and we've already raised $5,500 from over 80 individual donors, everywhere from $5 donations to $500 donations. And I'm just saying that as evidence that people really do care. This is something that matters. You're very likely not going to get the amount of public clamor at meetings that you do when somebody doesn't like a new development or when something is going on that affects their own individual property, but people really, really do care. And I just want to encourage you not to give up yet. There's anything that can possibly be done to give people more time to make it a slightly less terrible situation. I think that would go a long way. So thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you. And Sarah. Thanks, Rob.
I'm Sarah Melnikoff, and I wanted to talk about Walnut Lane. I've been involved with people that live there since 2008. In 2010, when we started raising money, we started helping people with rent and repairs. Those places should have been condemned 20 years before that. So on the one hand, I'd like to, see people in healthier environments, and what they're in now, if you saw them, you would not believe it. But anyway, I believe that with transparency, communication, collaboration, and creativity, there's nothing this community cannot do. And I know we can do something that's going to be beneficial for everyone, and especially for the people who've been living in that situation. And Charlie, Nelson, Ed, and Jim, they really felt they were really helping people by providing these spots, and I know what they went through to try to keep them functional. But it's way past time that it's time for a new era, and I think any challenge I've ever faced, we've always been able to find a solution. And I think together we can definitely find one for this. So count me in.
You're in. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Anybody else? All right. Moving back up to the next agenda item. We have no department update dates today. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I need a drink of water, I think. Next, we have presentation from Jeremy Spalding on safe routes to school. It's a great event that hopefully as many of you all can participate in.
Pass out a. pass it around. You're not gonna give us the big one?
Hold it up to the public.
So, I am coming from the school district, and each year we try to update, and we're legally obligated to update our safe route map. This is an interesting game in Moab because we have a major highway running through the middle of our town, which means that as a school district, we have other obligations like busing. We have to bus kids that live within a mile home because of that highway that runs through town. But each year we offer up an opportunity for our school faculty, community members, parents, PTA members, law enforcement. And this year I'm offering it up to you guys for a chance to come and do some observation of the neighborhoods around the school to help us identify where there are issues with paving, with curbs, with potholes. And I know that there's some money this year for sidewalks. So it might be a good time to go and help us identify where kids might trip up or where they might crash on their bicycles or on their scooters on their way to school. It's a simple task, a couple of hours, and it's also an opportunity to interact with folks that are working for the schools and parents. And we'd love, if you haven't been in the school buildings, I'll offer up as community coordinator a chance to be in any of the schools and to do walkthroughs or to connect in those spaces. I'm always open to do that, so that's an extension of this. But this event is it's got a couple of different prongs. One, on the 8th, children will be biking, and rolling to school. So it's an opportunity to use their own human-powered mode to get to school, usually with parent if they're younger. And that's a fun day. I know that we have some parents who come and bike in from Murphy Lane. Folks who bike in that day special and take a little time out of work to do that with their kids. And then when they get to school at HMK, they do a roundabout checking in with a bunch of our service providers, EMS, the police department, and they get recreation swag. So they'll get bike lights, and we're making little first aid kits for kids to put in their backpacks. So that's really fun. On the other side of this, we do this investigation piece where we will gather folks from this body. If you want to spread it out to folks within the city, that'd be great. To Public Works, to the city engineering office. We'd love to have those folks. And just pick depending on how many folks we get, we'll have a few routes where folks walk around and make notes. They take your phone, take some pictures, bring those back, and then we'll present those to the Public Works Department as you guys look to do some improvements on the streets this year and have some funding to do so. This is something we do every year. We don't always get a basis of folks who have the time to help or the interest. So we'd love to create a group that doesn't mind doing a walk for the good of their kids and community to come and do this year in, year out. So if y'all are interested, I will send Joette has my email. I realized it's not on, I guess it's on the little, it might be on the sheet. And so I'd love 2 or 3 council members to come out. I know Colin's really a big proponent on bike powered everything. And so it'd be lovely to have you out and maybe even to grab some mountain biking kids. These 2 big sheets are the secondary thing, which is that we offer up this same opportunity to middle school, to high school kids, to say to them, when you're out biking or walking or scootering to school, they are, so they're almost exactly the same thing. So this is a challenge for them. Yeah. It's a challenge for them to do exactly the same thing. On your way to school, take a picture of something that is not safe, share it with me, and you can win an off-campus lunch for your middle school, or you can win a gift certificate for high school. So be a part of this bigger project if you like. And there's always unsafe intersections. And so I know from my admin at the elementary school. That space across from Desert Oasis, the crossing right there where the rainbow is a dangerous space. We're lucky enough to have a daily volunteer cross guard who helps us with kids coming at the edge of the school property on, what's it? The school streets on 400, right, there we go. And right across from Swanee Park, that intersection can get kind of dicey too, right, where they go through the bike lane and then across. And so just thinking about how to improve those spaces. I know there's a lot of places in Moab that are dangerous. And I guess I'll leave the last thing is that we only really have one official safe route to school, and that's underneath along the creek path, the Mill Creek pathway there. And it's an interesting thing because we're legally out of compliance when that space is not navigable. And oftentimes it floods out, and for the last couple of years has been unnavigable. So something for you guys to keep in mind. It's not something I see us necessarily getting, docked for, or like there'll be a giant pressure, but it's something that is one of the safest and best routes for kids, and finding a way that we can ensure that doesn't flood out or become unnavigable in the future would be a bonus for our students.
Great. Question from Jeremy.
No, but Jeremy, I'd love to volunteer myself to be the coordinator for the council and try to rally some folks when the time comes, and I'll certainly be involved.
Lovely. And so one or two or three of you would be great. We haven't set a full date yet. I figured I'd work with you guys to be the first date setters, because you guys are all busy and wear a couple different hats each. And then we'll ask the PTA.
You want to do that this year before the end of the
Yes,
school
yes,
year, which
so-
is when?
So, well, we'd like to try to do it in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And it would just be, again, it's only, I think I can pull a chunk of folks to volunteer. So just expect an hour and a half of walking around a neighborhood and just checking through streets and taking pictures. Great.
So Colin, you'll coordinate all that?
I will.
All right, very good. You guys reach out to Colin if you want to go. Do you have a question, Jason?
I'll be reaching out to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate this, and this is like, one of the big things of why I wanted to be on the city council was because I was really frustrated. When my kids, when I used to live down by Orchard Villa, my kids couldn't walk to HMK on sidewalks.
Yeah.
And they would have to walk down the middle of the street, and so, yeah, I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this bill to make it safer for our kids to get to school, so.
Yeah, data that you guys collect on that would be really helpful.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So good.
Seems like a great resource. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
for your time.
You
Appreciate it.
bet. All right. Consent agenda, number 5. We have 4 items on this agenda. 5.1 is the Public Works Proclamation, which I will be reading. 5.2 is a monthly budget report. That is just an acceptance of that report. Hopefully you guys have a chance to look at that. Approval of the minutes and approval of from the April 9th regular meeting, and approval of the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $1,056,059.64. So before I ask for a motion, I would like to read to you all National Public Works Week Proclamation, which is May 19th through the 25th, and it's connecting the world through public works. And we all know our public works staff are working really hard right now. There's a lot going on. And so it's really important for us to recognize that. So whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facility, and services that are vital importance to the sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Moab City. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Moab City to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in the respective communities. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th Annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association / Canada Public Works Association, be it now resolved that I, Joette Langanese, Mayor, do hereby designate the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association, government agencies and activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public work professionals, engineers, managers, employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. There you have it. Thank you to everybody that works in our Public Works Department. You guys do a great job. And I think, I think that a lot of people don't recognize how much work they do. So I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that. So with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, item 5.1 through 5.4.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Tawny,
Second.
second by Luke. Discussion, Tawny?
No.
Luke?
No.
Anybody else?
I had one question on the budget. that maybe
Yes,
David can
sure.
So looking at the budget, it says like 75% of the fiscal year has expired, you know, but looking at revenues, our revenues actually like, we're not collecting 331 revenues, right? We're only like February, probably tax revenues coming in.
What about the 331?
So it says up at the top, 75% of the fiscal year has expired, you know. But looking at the revenues for tax, we haven't collected tax through 331 because we're a month behind. That'd be
Well, yes and no. We haven't collected the revenues for the month of March,
March.
but we collected in the month of March, the revenues for January. If that makes sense.
Yes,
So this, what you see here are that sort of gross receipts for when we actually get the money in.
yes.
So this gets back to that whole accrual issue that
Uh-huh.
Valerie was talking about. So what'll happen is when we get to June and July, we'll true it up so that receipts that belong in the right fiscal year are accrued to that fiscal year.
Right. I just looking at it going like, well, if we're at 70% of revenues for the year, those revenues aren't through 331 because those revenues collected are sales tax that we will probably only collect it through January or February because the state's behind
Right.
typically when those revenues come into
That
us.
is true.
Okay, so that's why I just wanted to kind of,
But does that get balanced off like when we start the fiscal year, that it's the previous one, that we kind of are 75% in terms of number of months?
Ish. Yeah, it
Yeah.
comes a number of months, but like not necessarily in terms of accurate revenue
Yeah.
because of the months in July where the May revenue is, and so it skews it a little
Yeah.
bit.
okay, that was just that was it.
Anything else? Anybody else? All right, I have a motion made by Tawny, seconded by Luke to approve consent agenda items 5.1 through 5.4. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, moving right along to general business 6.1. We have a public hearing for ordinance 2024-02, an ordinance adopting the cities of Moab pay plan schedule and adopting the exempt and elected official salaries for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. David, do you want to say anything before I open the public hearing?
No, other than this is the, statutorily required, public hearing process for adopting the pay, plan that then, provides you guidance for, what happens in the budget.
Okay. All right, I'm going to open the public hearing for ordinance 2024-02. Any comments from the public on our pay plan schedule? I guess Richard's comment was more related to this, so if we wanted to, we could apply that to the public hearing. But seeing that there's nobody willing to come up and talk about this, I'm gonna close the public, I forgot to say the time. So basically, I opened the public, you got it? All right, so I'm gonna close the public hearing at 6:28. And then we will move right on to item 6.2, consideration of adoption of ordinance 2024, an ordinance adopting the city of Moab's pay plan schedule and adopting the exempt and elected official salaries for fiscal year 24-25.
I would like to move to table this until our next meeting. Collectively, there's been some questions and concerns that the council had, and we would just like a chance to have those addressed before we go ahead and vote on this.
All right, motion by Tawny to table into May 14th,
I'd second that.
second by Colin. Discussion, Tawny?
No,
Colin?
None.
No? Anybody else?
No.
All right, we have a motion made by Tawny, seconded by Colin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0, and we'll coordinate meetings to have those discussions. All right, wow, okay. This is wonderful. General business, item 6.3, consideration adoption of resolution 12-2024, resolution adopting the 24-29 capital improvement project list that was presented to you all at the last meeting. You guys asked some questions. We got some clarifications. I think you were able to also work with David on the last couple of weeks to get more questions answered. So I will ask for a motion to adopt resolution 12-2024.
I guess I have I do, we have had some discussion about this, and I brought this up at the last meeting, want to, I guess, question/note. I would like to deprioritize an item that is different from what's included in the packet on the constrained list. So do we talk about that now, or do I just make a motion with that?
You can make a motion.
Or are we just considering that we're no longer doing a ranking and these are just kind of general items on our list?
You want to answer that?
Sure, I think that, there was a little bit of disagreement among council around how to rank those items. And at the end of the day, as I was thinking about it, the way that the list is set up, it is at this point proposing to fund all of those items that are on the list. And so the ranking is a little maybe less of an important piece of it as opposed to being on the list, I guess. So that was my way of finessing that, frankly, with you all. But if you have feedback on how you want to see it done differently, certainly we can consider that.
If I could interject here for a minute. We are going to be doing some public engagement around property tax. And one of the pieces of that is going to be looking at all our capital improvement projects and allowing the public to let us know out of all those projects, what they would like to see ranked. So if you guys want to do your rankings, I think that's great, but I think really who we want to hear from is the public and what the public would like to see us focus on first. So just something to keep in mind.
Okay, I feel comfortable with that. I think that keeping them on the list as things to bring to the public as ideas and then doing a follow-up ranking with public input would be really valuable. So that being said then, I would motion to approve resolution 12-2024, the 5-year capital improvement projects plan that includes a tentative constrained plan.
All right, motion by Caitlin. You have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Jason. Any further discussion, Caitlin?
No, I think that public input would be really important on all of these items. I think that, we're really excited in this staff input on a few of these items, but the public knows best on what they want to see, particularly with property tax. So looking forward to that process.
Great. Jason?
Yeah, I agree with Caitlin, and I just want to make sure that we're open that there may be some things on here that aren't on here that the public says, what about this? Or something like that. So, so I think that, there's definitely some things on here that I feel are critical and that need to happen and stuff. But I think that, yeah, getting the public's input is a huge part of this property tax and making that work.
Anybody else?
I would just add more to that, all of our discussion 2 weeks ago was about public perception of this and so the path we're discussing, the path forward seems like a very appropriate one for me.
Great, good. Connie or Luke? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that we're gonna be taking public input on this, because kind of going back to the perception thing. I was thinking after the meeting that particularly for the constrained list, a lot of that would be funded by the property tax. And it just kind of reminded me that when we've been talking about the property tax, it's kind of been sold as being implemented to improve improve like significantly deteriorating infrastructure and all of that stuff. And I realized that at least one of those things was like an acquisition. And so it kind of strayed away from the message that like the central message of the property tax, but gaining the input of the public, I think really alleviates a lot of my concerns in that regard. And having the people kind of help decide how they want their money spent. So
I would agree with everything that's been said, and I think that this gives us a little more leeway as to what can be on that capital improvements list and what we realistically have budget to do. In past years, it's kind of been, we had to pick the projects that we could spend other people's money on. So I think this gives us a lot more control over what we want and need to have done, and public as well.
All right, I have a motion made by Caitlin, seconded by Jason to adopt resolution 12-2024, resolution adopting the 25-29 capital improvement project list. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, we're done with general business. And it is 6:35. All right, so David, you're up with your updates, and then we'll move on to council reports.
Speaking of spending other people's money, I'm happy to report that the CDBG process is nearing its completion, and the $250,000 that the city applied for we've been awarded. Staff are going to be heading up state tomorrow, I believe, to do the required training for the administration of that grant, and that will go to offset significant amount of the cost of the Swanee Park playground that's planned. So very excited about that. That's a nice one, and that is a good example of funding that we will continue to try to maximize getting. Even if the property tax happens, we're not going to take our foot off the gas in terms of looking for other sources of money to match the local sources. Okay, moving on. In addition to that, speaking of spending money, the MRAC has some issues, you may all be aware, but a new issue has come to light that we're in the process of dealing with right now. The roof is apparently parts of the roof are coming off. So yeah, it's great. So that was discovered because we're up there doing some HVAC work and noticed that part of it's peeling off, but we're in the process of getting a contractor on board to deal with that and get it fixed. So I don't think that, there's not a safety concern necessarily. It's just more we can't have the roof not working. So that is being dealt with, but I wanted you to hear it from me. In better news at the MRAC, we have had some issues with the outdoor pool and dealing with leaks, and we're in the process of going through a pretty significant leak detection process, and hoping against hope. The goal is to have the outdoor part of the pool open May for Memorial Day weekend. So that's our target date for that. And in even better news, just this week, we have signed a contract to hire an aquatics manager there at the pool. So that's been a little while coming, and I know that Brianna in particular is very excited about having the extra capacity on staff there. So and then the last couple things is yesterday there was a really great Earth Day celebration at the Mark. I heard over 80 people showed up and hung out and celebrated some earthiness. And we also had an Arbor Day tree planting that happened in the city as well recently. And we're pretty excited about a bunch of trees that got planted over at Swanee Park. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, David. All right, moving on to council reports. We'll start with you, Luke.
So I attended a planning commission meeting where the majority of the meeting was focused on discussing potential code amendment to accommodate nonprofits in terms of, I think, what currently might be considered overnight accommodations. And so wouldn't be allowable, which kind of really blossomed into a really deep and thorough discussion that I think like lasted for well over an hour. But it kind of got, I think, a lot of people, including myself, thinking about just making sure as we're doing this municipal code rewrite that we really take our nonprofits into consideration, just because they do offer up such like vital and instrumental services to our community that, and as our community is continuing to kind of change and shift, that those nonprofits also have the ability to change and adapt to respond to the needs of the community as well. I attended the LHC meeting. We had a new rep from the state get introduced to us. Still going through some grant reviews right now. Hopefully we'll hear back whether or not our local agencies received awards for that. And then HASU has been really working on trying to make use of all of the vouchers that they have available for the community. I met with the mayor, and then I met with a consultant that is working with Wabi Sabi to kind of try to help them find a new location. Seems like they might have something on the table, so hopefully things are headed in a good direction in that regard. And then, yeah, just kind of spent some time trying to help out with the Walnut Lane situation a little bit. And then I have a couple more meetings scheduled with some constituents for next week. And then last week, I also attended the GWISA meeting. So GWISA is going to be looking into once the Department of Energy is done with the tailings pile. They have had a pipe, or was it the tailings pile? DOE has a pipe funneling water from Green River to Crescent Junction. And so GWISA is looking at potentially taking over that, but there might be, basically figuring out what the operating costs are, what the costs associated with it might be. I think some of it goes across private land and there's some fees associated with that, which I heard are pretty high. So we're going to look at the feasibility of it. I'm not sure if it's possible or not, but GWISA is kind of looking to help provide a more stable delivery of water to Thompson. Because they've had a lot of issues where sometimes they basically have to like go door to door and ask people to not use water for the next like 12 hours. So project updates, we're trying to get comments in on the WRMP draft. So hopefully GWISA will be submitting its comments as a whole on the draft. Lake and snow report looks pretty good. Flows have started to increase into the lake. And then we had some questions kind of about the interaction between the Glen Canyon Aquifer and the Valley Fill Aquifer and how they are connected and in like what quantity. We believe that there's some sinkholes like under Ken's Lake where we're losing some water, but we believe that we are also kind of feeding the aquifers, definitely the Valley Fill and probably the Glen Canyon Aquifer. We just don't know to what amount. So I think we're going to have some more people from the state come down to kind of go over that and then kind of try to identify what other data we might be able to collect to give us a little bit clearer of a picture into that. But that is it.
Thanks, Luke. Colin.
So on the 10th, I got to meet with the mayor and Caitlin and discuss a lot of relevant issues. And then that weekend, the 12th and the 13th, Trail Mix had its big service event, the Spring Spruce Up, where we had 70 volunteers and about 20 staff, 7 different projects. 4 of those were along the parkway. And I just want to extend a big thanks to Bree and to also Mark and Brandon from the city who were amazing with the organization and the leadership in one of the projects. On the 16th, the RAPTAC committee got together to review this year's process. So, and make some fine tuning going into our next year, our third year of passing out these grants, awarding these grants. But all in all, I think we all felt very accomplished and proud of the work we did this year. And, look forward to seeing how that money, does good in the community. Then on the 18th, I had the wonderful opportunity to go out to the Arroyo Crossing groundbreaking, and so proud of ours, Caitlin here, who's just a tireless advocate for housing in this community, and has just done so much good work. And so I felt incredibly proud to be out there supporting her. And then on the 23rd, which is today, we got to tour the Trust site, which was the first time I really got to drive around that place and really get a bird's eye view and from the ground view. And what an absolutely stunning, incredible piece of property that is. We walked along the river there, and it just got me so excited for the future of that piece of land. And then later this afternoon, we had a steering committee meeting where we got some updates, and so their priorities for the 2024 year were moving 950,000 tons this year, and they're well on track and even ahead of schedule on that. So for those of you who don't know, 90% of the tailings have been moved at this point. So just shy of about 14.4 million tons have been moved at this point. Out of the 16, and with the additional 1 million, so about 17 million total tons. And they're working on their end state vision, which will involve a lot of community input, and then also completing their field investigations for the groundwater compliance action plan, which are both important to note that they're starting to have eyes on the future and the transition, and starting to put the pieces in place for closing that place down. So that's incredibly exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason.
All right. I was able to meet with the mayor and kind of get up to date with a lot of things that are happening within the city, which was a great meeting. I also attended the groundbreaking at Arroyo Crossing, which was great. And it'll be exciting to see the next phase of that coming on. I was able to take a tour of the Umtra plant today, and echo everything that Colin said. It was a great tour, and when you're down there on the ground level, it was pretty exciting to think of what could be, and what the future could hold for that. And then I also too have been working, with residents and citizens in discussing, kind of the Walnut Lane. And I think it needs to be kind of said that what is happening on Walnut Lane is devastating. And it's not anything that this council intended to happen, that it was things that were out of our control, that if we had any way, and we are still looking at ways to try to fix this, but and to fix what is going on. But as has been said by the city, with the insurance, our hands were forced, and we understand that it's on the backs of people who need this housing. It's on the backs of people who are the backbone of people who rely on them for housing in this town and for having jobs. So I understand, we understand, and this is not something that is being taken lightly by any of us. If there's ever been a council that I can think of that's trying to do the right thing for these people, we're trying, and we just keep on hitting roadblock and roadblock and roadblock, and it's not, we're trying to find ways to get around it, and we're trying to find ways to keep these people in Moab. And I just want to say that I think that Kaya is absolutely right, that it was a good move the city bought this land, that it gave these people 6 years of having a place to live that they probably would not have been able to have. While we've been dealt a bad hand, or dealt with what we're dealing with, we're trying to figure it out. So please know that. And I hope that the residents and citizens of Moab understand that as well.
Thanks, Jason. Caitlin.
I also attended a meeting with the mayor. Last week hosted an Arroyo Crossing groundbreaking. Thank you so much to Colin and Jason for coming out to that. It was an incredible day celebrating three historic projects for Moab and for the state of Utah. And we also that day had a roundtable discussion with Steve Waldrop, who is an advisor on housing strategy and innovation to the governor. Just had an incredible conversation about some of our housing needs. There's representation from the Community Land Trust, Housing Authority, Seahaven, MVMC, a lot of the major players providing housing and adjacent services, talking about ways that we need support from the state and ways that we see housing challenges affecting our community and trends that we're seeing that we want to start addressing moving forward. So really appreciative to Steve for coming down. He has been an advocate for affordable housing for a long time, and we were lucky to be able to share that day with him. And thank you to Mary McGann at the county for taking lead on organizing that. I also attended the UMTRA Earth Day site tour today. It was my first time out on the site, and it was a beautiful day. I learned a lot about kind of the history and a lot of the sustainability and other practices that they're doing to keep the site safe and how they're starting to prepare for the closing of the site. That project has been so impactful over the last 70 years to the Moab community, and to be there for the first time and really see the scale of how big it is was really awesome. And yeah, I've also been just engaging with constituents over the last couple of weeks about, development projects in the works and water tanks and that kind of thing, but also a lot about Walnut Lane. I echo a lot of Jason's comments. This has been, I'm sitting up here on council because in large part because of Walnut Lane, because I worked on that project for 2 years on staff and saw the importance of leadership, and ran for, and now I'm on council to try and provide leadership for this project. It's devastating to get elected into office and then, a couple months later have your hands kind of tied behind your back. And I just want everyone to know that I'm doing everything I can. I will continue to do everything I can to support the residents there and to keep this project moving forward. It's absolutely devastating. I think that the residents out there and the community deserve better and have for a long time. And it's just been really hard to, city's been hit with a lot of challenges along the way. And so I am going to keep fighting for solutions for as long as I am involved with the city. So yeah, just want to say thank you to Kaya for putting together the GoFundMe, for staff for really stepping up and taking this on and kind of going above and beyond for years and years to do what they can to make Walnut Lane a better place to live, and to do what they can to support the residents out there. It's challenging, and it's one of the most important things the city's decided to try and do in a long time.
Thank you. Connie.
I don't have an awful lot. On the 11th, I attended a Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District. We elected new officers and gave some of our staff a well-earned bonus and raise. I wasn't able to attend the open house because I was at work and couldn't get away. But HASU canceled their normally scheduled board meeting because it was at the same time. So there was not a HASU board meeting this week. I would echo what Jason and Caitlin say about Walnut Lane. I think it was smart and it was bold to buy that property 6 years ago or 7 years ago, whatever it was. We did provide a place for people to live for 6 years at a very low cost, and we also protected that property. It's still the city's property and we still have control over how it is deed restricted, whatever happens with it. And I am, as long as I am on council, I will fight for that to be housing. I have no desire to sell that to anybody that's going to develop a hotel or an overnight rental or anything that does not benefit our residents.
Okay, is that it, Tony?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I have a couple things. One is every year I get letters from HMK students, sixth grade writing class. They're always very, very interesting. So just to give you an idea, if you want to read these letters, I have them all in my office from years past, so you're welcome to. Some of them were pretty funny. This year, privacy for kids. The kids want more privacy. They want more than 2 lanes on highways because that prevents accidents. We have 4 lanes. They want more cafes and coffee shops. Because
Drinking coffee.
I'm telling you, we need them all. We need them all so that people have things to do. They can go shopping. They want to stop us from closing the Jeep roads. I think a parent might have had something to do with that. Every single year, we've got students saying how we need more affordable housing to help our homeless population, which I think is very thoughtful of those kids. We need more sports facilities. And if we have more sports facilities, we'll have more cafes, apparently. We need left-hand turn lights on Main Street, so we'll have to direct that child to UDOT. And we need more lights on our streets because dark streets are dangerous. So those are some of the interesting letters. Again, you're more than welcome to read them. I love this. I always write back to the teacher and let them know their voices are heard and keep your voices coming. So anyway, a little bit of a lighter note from me. I also wasn't able to attend the AC, open house. I apologize for that, but I was down in St. George at the League of Cities and Town Conference. And to be honest, the best thing for me out of it was the keynote speaker. Her name was Noelle Picus Pace. And she was the silver medal winner for skeleton in the 2014 Olympics. And she had, she came in 4th. One time she had a bad accident, so she couldn't do it. And then she got away from it. And then she went back and she won the silver medal. And what she shared that really resonated with me, and I hope does for you too, is that how she kind of got her mind back on track. I mean, skeleton, have you ever seen a skeleton? I mean, they're like this far from the ice going 150,000 miles an hour through all these curves. And it's like one little incident, or one mismaneuver, and you're crashing and burning. And so she said there was, 3 things that she learned that helped her win the silver medal. One of them is that no matter what issue, and I think that's really pertains to a lot of the things that this body up here deals with, is that you should always just sit back and relax. Issues come up and get all riled up. Just take the time to relax. Always stay focused in your form. So we know what we need to do. We know what we need to accomplish. So stay relaxed, stay focused, and don't panic. And I just thought those are really good words of advice for us because we deal with a lot of challenging issues and sometimes we get excited about them. But if we don't panic, stay focused, and keep relaxed, we'll be able to solve all the problems that we face. And maybe not all, but we'll be able to at least look at them in a very thoughtful way and try to come up with solutions. So that to me was the best part of that conference, believe it or not. So yeah, I probably could have just gone and left after the keynote, right? We also, Jason and I met with Lena Pace, who I think I mentioned in the past. She's the new Southeast Utah National Park Service Superintendent. She's still in Washington. She should be here shortly. We talked with her about the timed entry system. And they're planning to have the EIS done by the end of the year, which is good. So that can move the process forward to make the timed entry system permanent. We talked a little bit with her about North Wash. She has some solutions and she's going to be meeting with the superintendent at Glen Canyon and have some of those conversations. And then we had a brief conversation about the Arches wastewater connection from the city, long ways to go. I just sent you an email from them. They're really eager. I don't know what that's going to entail, but anyway, David and I will continue to work on that too with the Park Service. Met with a gal named Jennifer Dobner, who is a journalist with a new magazine called Moab Magazine, Moab Living. And she wanted to talk to us about the film commission. So I had that interview. And then lastly, we need to give a big shout out to our victim advocate, Nathaniel Clark.
Yeah.
Yay.
He won the System-Based Victim Advocate Award that was given to him by the Utah Coalition Against Sexual Assault. Awesome. We all heard from him at our last meeting. So lucky to have him and Emily as well on our team, helping with some of the problems that we have with that in our community. So that's all I have. And so with that,
Can I add one more?
Sure,
comment real
of
quick?
course, of
Just
course.
regarding the Walnut Lane situation. I'm kind of reminded of like the flood from a couple of years ago, the Pack Creek fire by Cinema Courts. Like emergencies that kind of really affected our community wholesale were moments where our community came out to support one another. As you've heard from some of the other council members, we really are trying to do everything we can that's within our power to assist the people at Walnut Lane right now. But this is also an emergency that is affecting our entire community. And I think it would, I'm hopeful that, like, they say that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And I hope that Moab's tradition of helping like their neighbors really continues with this, and whatever small ways they might be, even if it's just sending potential resources to the city that we can relay to the residents. It doesn't have to be financial. Just like I think we're at a moment in time where like every little bit counts, and so I appreciate everybody who's already kind of stepped up in that regard. And I thank you all for kind of doing what you can to assist some of the most vulnerable people within our community.
thanks, Luke. All right, with that, I need a motion to go into a brief executive session. Hopefully it'll be brief, to discuss reasonably and imminent or pending litigation and sale and lease of real property. I have a motion now. I need you guys to actually say the motion.
I move to go into executive closed session to discuss reasonably imminent and or pending litigation and to discuss the sale of real property.
Motion made by Luke, second.
I'll second that.
Second by Colin, all in favor?